Hello ladies and gentlemen, this lesson is about pencil. What you're going to need is you will need a pencil, okay, and you're also going to need something called a blender. So the blender is over by the markers. It is basically rolled paper. It does not matter if you have one that is dirty or not. It is fine. Okay. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our name on our paper, okay? Excellent. And don't forget the period as well. All right. So first thing I want to talk about is value. Value is not how much something's worth in art. Value is the lightness and darkness of a color. Okay. Specifically, we're going to be talking about pencil. So let's put that in. Light, oops, ness, and darkness of a color. Okay, please make sure that you write this down. Okay, now there's two ways of showing value. First way is a value scale. These are solid values in order. There we go. In order, okay? So for example, we have light, we have a medium, and we have a dark, okay? Now, if we were dealing with paint, how would we do this? Well, we could add tint, which is adding white. We could add tone, which is actually adding gray. We can add shade, okay, which is actually adding black. Like, why don't they just say add those colors? I don't know. Sometimes they like to make things difficult, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to fill these in. We're going to create different scales, okay? Most of the time, I do work with the 4, okay? All right, so first thing we want to talk about is how you hold your pencil. If you have mechanical pencil, the problem with mechanical pencils and this is that you can't get these darker values because they break, okay? Great for drawing and having light sketches, but not good for adding a lot of dark colors. So when we're adding light values, okay, we tend to hold our pencil back here because it prevents us from pressing really hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a very light value, not white light, and we're just going to kind of shade it in. So shading just means filling it in, okay? And when we fill it in, you don't want any empty spaces. That means it has good coverage, okay? Even coverage, all right? Now, we also want to make sure that it's solid color, okay? So we don't have any different dark lights. Next one, so this one's light. That's when we're gonna go medium, a little darker. Notice that I move my grip up, and it's okay, you don't have to fill in the whole thing. I do want about 90% of this filled in, though. All right, so we're going back and forth. And if you ever get too dark, like right here, you can take your eraser, back it down, and just build it back up, okay? Last one, dark. So that's the medium. Then we have dark. Let's press really hard. All right, we got dark. Okay, so now let's see if we can get this a little bit more. So let's do light, medium, dark, very dark. Let's give it a go. So nice and light. I know somebody's probably asking, like, but that's not light. Unfortunately, with copying machines, they don't always get the very, very, very light spaces. Okay? Medium, a little bit darker. Nice solid color and no empty spaces. Dark. And very dark. All right, so let's move up, okay? So our next one's gonna have 5. You're like, wow, that's gotta be really hard. Okay, well, I'm not trying to make this super hard. This is gonna go from white to very dark. So this one starts white, then it goes to light, then to medium, then to dark, then to very dark, okay? So go ahead and do it. So obviously the white, this is our lightest thing. So let's say a flashlight was right on there. You probably wouldn't see it. So then we're gonna go and add in one more time. Okay, we'll just keep going through. If you go out of the box, I do want you to clean it up, okay? We do not go out of the lines, all right? We make sure we have good control of our media, of our pencil, all right? And we are not rushing. When you have things going out of the lines and it looks like you're scribbling, it looks like you are rushing and you do not care, okay, about how you're creating, okay? Almost like how you're doing the skills. It's like, I guess like throwing a basketball with floppy arms. I don't know how you're gonna make a basket with floppy arms, but you know, at least if you stiffen them up, you might make it in. Oh, look at that. That is so beautiful. All right, so now we're gonna put this into play, okay? So on here, I know this says an exclamation point, sorry. It says fill in the picture using the 5 different values. We're gonna use these, the white, light, medium, dark, and very dark, okay? And as I may have said, this is achromatic. Oh, I may not have actually. Achromatic colors, colors that lack a hue or color, okay? Appear only in shades of black, white, and gray. Basically, it's a pencil. So in here, this is gonna be an achromatic drawing. So I'm gonna pause my video and I'm gonna complete this. I want you to pause the video as well and finish this up. So before I do that, let me explain. So I want 5 values, okay? So I need to show everything. So let's say for now, I want you to show 2 of each of these values. All right, so if I had dark value, I might say, you know what? I'm gonna pick this one to be my dark value. I'm gonna put this one as my dark value, my 2. It's really dark, woof. Check that one off, okay? Then we're gonna go to my dark, fill them in, my light, fill them in, make sure I check them off, and you're good to go, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and pause and let's fill this in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. If you ever want to like smudge it in with your finger, it is okay. It just fills it in a little bit more, okay? If you have any spaces, like for example, right here, I see that that is out of there and I need to clean it up. So that is my, my achromatic drawing. It has all 2 representatives. Now, yes, there are a couple more that, you know, I probably could have filled in, but I think I'm happy with it. All right, so last thing before we go to the next page is I want you to come up with an example. Now that we know what value scale looks like, where could you see or use a value scale? And I'm not gonna put this in here. I want you to think of somewhere where that it might be a cool place to put in a value scale. Or look around my room. See if you can see value scales in anywhere in my room. All right, after you filled it in, okay, let's go to the next page. So our next thing is gradation. It is a different way of doing value. This is a smooth transmission. I always spell transmission wrong. Transmission. It's okay, don't worry. Take a stick. All right, so when we have it, you see that it goes from dark to light. All right, so let's try this. When we do this, we don't want any tornadoes where it goes really dark and it comes really close. So we want to make sure that it's nice and wide. And it just moves together. Pretty cool, right? Yeah. And then we gotta make sure we fill it in, okay? And if you have to go back over, you can. All right, let's try to go this a little bit more, a little bit longer. Press it really hard. I'm gonna try to fill in all my space. So a little bit lighter. Yes, I do pick up my pencil a little bit more. But you gotta make sure that at least you fill in those spaces, okay? And even longer. Whew, I gotta rotate my pencil. Yeah, that's actually a good tip. If you keep using your pencil on one side, it's gonna make it having a weird shape, okay? But if you kind of rotate it, like around, it does help. All right, I'm gonna go over this one more time because I need to fill in all of my spaces. Voila. All right, so let's get a little fancy here. Oh, I know. This one, we're gonna go from here in, and we're gonna make it fade in the center. All right. Nice and dark. Fade out. Oh, see, I always do mine on an angle. There we are. Fade out. Now I'm going to go on this side. Make this fade toward the center. So it looks like it's got like this bubble in the center, almost like it's coming up. And now I'm going to actually clean this one up. So that means I've got to go and make sure that my edges are nice and clean, okay? I want you to do that too. There we are. Beautiful. All right, now let's deal with circles or curved areas. Now we're gonna do this in two different ways. First way, kind of straightforward. Second way, we're gonna make it a little bit harder. So when we do circles, okay, we want to go with the edge. So we're going to start on the edge and we're going to kind of fade it out just like that. Okay, so I gotta make sure we got the edge and it fades. I want you to like fill this all in. If you go out, hey, it's okay, you can always take an eraser and clean it up. See how that's nice? Beautiful. All right, now let's up this. Let's make this exciting. Now, we're gonna make this be dark on the outside and light on the inside. Oh, I know. Okay, so it's gonna start now. How I do this is I always start here and I go light toward the center. And then I rotate around. And you're probably like, but Mrs. Smith, look, it's weird. Well, yeah, so I need to kind of go in the center here too. It's almost like I'm blending both areas. So it's like a two-step process. Light, and I gotta smoothen that little area. And keep going around. Now there are other ways of doing this. If you happily know one, that's awesome. But this is how I kind of do it. That looks so cool when we're done. Looks so cool, right? Take my finger into that. So cool! And if you ever need to go into the edge, make it a little darker, that's fine. All right. Now let's get out this thing we call a blender, okay? Sometimes all of this up here, just doing it with your pencil, can be a little challenging. And it's okay, because if it's the first time you're figuring this out, it can be. Blenders are definitely helpful. They take the place of your fingers, okay? So let's see if we can do a gradient on all three, but we're gonna use blenders now. Now, when I use a blender, I'm not particularly like picky that if I miss like an empty space, it's not the end of the world. So I'm gonna kind of go down and fade out, okay? When you use a blender, it doesn't matter if it has like color on it, it's fine. You're gonna start with the dark side. Now you are gonna take some of that graphite out, and you go up and down, and you blend to the light area. Oh, I know, okay? Now I'm gonna clean up the edges, always going from the dark to the light, okay? And if you need to clean up the edges, you're like, Mrs. Smith, that's amazing. I know, I am, and so is a blender. Okay, let's give it a go. Now, this is not for everyone. Some people find blenders annoying, okay? They don't like the feel of paper on paper, and that's okay, all right? I'm just showing you that there is, you know, this tool out there, and if you'd like to use it, you may use it up and down. Now, why don't we go back and forth? You're probably asking. Okay, so here's the thing. If you go back and forth, what it's going to do is it's going to mix it back and forth, and it'll be all one solid. If I start from the dark side and go to the light side, it's like I'm fading out. And you can, by the way, always go back over it to make certain areas a little darker. Now look, now that looks really good, because what I've done is I've incorporated both. All right, let's do this last one, and then we'll get to the other one. Actually, let's get fancy. Let's do both sides, like this one. Dark to light, dark to light. Said, not getting too particular, you know. And then I'm just gonna do the edges. Back and forth to center. Over here, fill in my edges a little bit, and then fade toward the center. Dude, so cool. All right, so here, I know it's a question mark, don't know why. You're gonna fill this in using 9 gradients. It does not matter to me if you use the blender or not, but I do need to see a dark side, and I need to see the light side. Now, if I was breaking this apart, this would be my, my very dark, my medium, and then my light. So I need to see every single one of those things, okay? So for example, let's say I wanted to start here, dark, fade all the way to light. I'm not seeing enough of each one. So you might need to go in and out a little bit more, okay? And make sure you clean that up, okay? All right, so I'm gonna pause real quick. One thing I do wanna say before we go, okay, before I turn off and go there, is contrast. Contrast is very helpful, okay? It's a noticeable difference between the light and dark parts of a picture, which help make things stand out and look more three-dimensional. You're like, okay, what does that mean? So this fox would totally blend. We wouldn't even know what it was there if this was maybe a very dark and a dark. Because this is a very dark and a medium and a light, we can really tell that they're different. Even like right here, see, like this is very light, okay, next to this medium. And by having different values next to them really helps us understand where things are. All right, let's take a moment. I'm gonna pause and let's finish this strawberry. Okay, so for the rest of this, what you're gonna do is, all I want you to make sure is that you're gonna fill in the example of where you could see or use gradation in my classroom or somewhere around anywhere, okay? So once you fill this in, then you are done with this unit, okay? Just make sure everything is nice and clean. There's no any, messes outside. And then you're gonna come and get this checked off by me, and then you're ready to go to the next unit, the next part. That's it.